The debate over whether juveniles who commit serious crimes should be tried as adults and put into state prisons has been controversial for decades. I would like to begin by explaining some of the key terms you will be hearing throughout my speech. What is considered a serious crime depends on the laws of each state. Examples of a serious crime, and these are just a few, include murder, robbery with a weapon, and rape. One term that might be unclear for some of you is the juvenile criminal system. The juvenile criminal system deals with minors who have been accused of violating a criminal statute. The key word in defining juvenile court is the word minor. Juvenile criminal courts are specifically made to handle criminals who are under the age of 18. Juvenile courts focus more on alternative sentences that keep juveniles out of jail, such as probation, parole, and rehabilitation programs. On the other end, the adult criminal system is much different. This criminal system focuses more on putting criminals behind bars and neglects to focus on other alternative forms of punishment. There has been a large amount of debate over the trial process of serious juvenile offenders. I'm going to take this time with you to persuade you all why juveniles should not be charged as an adult and put into state prisons. States currently have different laws concerning the trial process of juveniles. I'm going to describe the laws of a few states that I personally found interesting. In California, a juvenile is considered to be anyone under the age of 18, but anyone 14 years and older can be tried as an adult for serious crimes. In New York, a juvenile is anyone between the ages of 7 and 16. Children who are 13, 14, and 15 years old and commit what the state considers a more serious or violent crime can actually be tried as adults. In Tennessee, the juvenile court system can transfer a minor for any crime if the minor is 16 or older. And if a minor is being charged with murder or rape, the case is automatically transferred to the adult criminal system. There is much momentum for reforming the system that allows juveniles to be sentenced to life without parole. There is a need to provide an opportunity for review after a reasonable period of incarceration, with the review taking into consideration the unique circumstances of each juvenile defendant. A 2012 survey performed by an organization called the Sentencing Project surveyed people who had been sentenced to life in prison as juveniles. This survey really gives great insight into the unique circumstances of each individual juvenile defendant. Here's what the survey found. 79% of juveniles witnessed violence in their homes regularly. 32% of juveniles grew up in public housing. 40% of juveniles had been enrolled in a special education class, while fewer than half of juveniles surveyed were attending school at the time of their offense. The survey also found that 47% of juveniles surveyed were physically abused. 80% of juveniles surveyed that were girls reported histories of physical abuse, while 77% of girls reported histories of sexual abuse. These statistics really bring out very important findings within the juvenile population. After looking at the statistics I just listed and many others, one can understand that there are many factors that have an influence on the development of an adolescent. Yet still, many people argue that juveniles who commit serious crimes should face serious time behind bars. These people consider 15 to 18-year-olds to be mature enough to understand the consequences of the crime they committed. These people will also argue that the new reforms in the criminal court systems are just lightening up the punishment. These people want there to be harsh consequences instead of rehabilitation for juvenile criminal offenders. What I am arguing is that juveniles who commit serious crimes should not be placed with adults in state prisons. Instead, they should either be placed in juvenile detention centers or some type of rehabilitation program. Juveniles who commit serious crimes should not be tried as adults and put into state prisons because it is not fair and it is not safe. I believe, along with many others, that a juvenile's mental health should be taken into consideration. An adolescent's brain has been found to be marked by immaturity and failure to appreciate risks and consequences. And I think most of you could agree with me on that. And so, in criminal proceedings, juvenile defendants have a large disadvantage. They have been found to be less able than adults to assist in their own defenses and are likely to respond poorly to the high pressures of interrogation. I really want to point out that state prisons are very dangerous for juveniles. State prisons have been found to end up doing more harm than good. Whatever threat you can think of, rape, assault, or suicide, are a constant threat to juvenile offenders in state prisons. Placing young offenders in prison with adult sex offenders, rapists, and murderers is flat out a terrible idea. I believe that juveniles should be placed with offenders who are of the same age. And I really don't understand why anyone would think it is acceptable to place juveniles with serious adult criminals. Juveniles deserve to be given fair treatment no matter what the seriousness of the crime was. And the juvenile's mental health should always be taken into consideration. Transferring juvenile offenders into the adult criminal system can ruin their lives. I hope that the efforts to make sure juvenile offenders stay within the juvenile criminal system continues, and I really hope that I have persuaded you all to agree with me on this matter. Thank you for your time.